Welcome to Parker's MMA Show. If you want to learn about all things going down in the fight world, you've come to the right place. Each episode, your host Parker Keene will take a deeper dive into the always entertaining world of sanctioned fist fighting. Now here's your host, Parker Keene.
Welcome back to Parker's MMA Show, episode 69, where we get to see how long we could go without Parker giggling. Very, very excited to have our guest on today, Tyler Diamond. He is an 11-1 MMA fighter competing in the PFL featherweight division. He's a veteran of the Ultimate Fighter, UFC, LFA, and many other promotions across the United States. He's fighting out of Sacramento, California. He has an upcoming bout in the PFL's first round of 2021, where he's going to take on Sung Bin Jo on April 23rd. So very, very excited to talk to him about it. Welcome to the show, Tyler Diamond. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for having me and trying to spread the good word about my fight. I appreciate it.
Here we go.
Awesome, Tyler. So, we love to, when we have people on, we love to kind of start at the beginning with someone like you. Talk to me about growing up. Obviously, you're a Northern California guy. What sports did you play growing up? What was life like? What did you do?
Man, well, I was raised in a freaking garage. I learned how to walk on a cement slab. So humble beginnings, to say the least. And I didn't start playing sports till I was like 10, 11 years old. I mean, I wasn't very coordinated growing up. Like, I've always been a late bloomer. So I started with football, and that was awesome. I didn't play a ton growing up, but I slowly caught up to everyone else that had been playing from a young age. And then I started wrestling as well. And kind of the same thing. I had to play catch up there. Like, there's a lot of guys who wrestled that had been wrestling from a young age that would just whoop my butt. But then in a course of a whole year, the tides totally turned, and I was whooping their butts. And so I just began wrestling, and one thing led to another. I started wrestling at a higher level. I far surpassed everyone that I began wrestling with. And it was mainly due just because I was putting in so much more time and effort than those guys. And one thing led to another, and organically I just so happened to start training MMA while I was in high school.
So let's talk about that wrestling career a little bit. I mean, maybe not a lot of people know this, but you were one of the all-time winningest wrestlers in the history of North Dakota State, right? How does a California boy end up in North Dakota? And what are some of your favorite memories from being a collegiate wrestler?
So yeah, I actually transferred to NDSU and had a pretty good career. I would have did a lot better had I not been injured. I was actually injured like my whole career, like really bad injuries that I had to wrestle through. But some of my favorite memories, honestly, were just getting through it. And that might sound weird or strange to some people, but like, that was the hardest thing I've ever done, like, by far, was college wrestling. Like, we, at the time, our head coach was only 28, 29 years old. It was his first year coaching. So he was pretty fresh out of college himself. And dude, he ran us into the ground. Like, we were way overtrained. So we underperformed because we were overtrained. I got injured a lot. And so I battled through a lot of adversity in college. So my proudest moment there is just the fact that I was able to show up day in, day out and just grind when a lot of guys found excuses not to be there, excuses not to do this, do that. Like, I stayed the course, and I showed up, and I put in the work every single day. And like I already said, it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I'll never do anything harder.
Do you have any good stories from those days?
Man, well, you know what? It was in North Dakota, which is an interesting place. I mean, the weather is just terrible in the winter. So, but it came with its perks, I mean, during the off season of wrestling, it was always really fun to take my truck and do like some sledding. So the thing is, there's no hills there. So you gotta hook yourself up on the back of the truck, and, you drive 30 miles an hour down the dirt road, pulling your buddies, and it's just fun times. Like, it's just a whole different world out there compared to California. There's so much more different things. I mean, After wrestling season, going ice fishing was always fun. I really enjoyed that. And then I ended up finding out my senior year that if you were going to school in North Dakota, basically you had like a 1 year of like, as long as you got your hunting license in another state, you basically have one whole year where you just have to buy a license for North Dakota and you can hunt. Like you didn't have to be a resident. Like I didn't know how the resident, non-resident stuff worked. And I was so worried about wrestling, but then my senior year, I kind of loosened up and I'm like, man, I'm in like prime duck hunting territory. I need to take advantage of it. So I figured it out. And, some of the best duck hunts I've ever had were out there. I mean, we would drive out on Thursday night. We'd hunt Friday morning, limit out, Friday evening, limit out, Saturday morning, Saturday evening, Sunday morning. So we'd get 5 hunts in and limit out every single time. And we would do that like 3-4 weekends in a row. And that was just freaking awesome.
Are you guys hunting public land up there? Are you just knocking on farmers' doors or what?
It was all public, and there's just so much public out there, and you're not at least where we were, we didn't really see anyone. So it was friggin' awesome. We just found what we thought were honey holes, and no one was ever there, and it was public land, and that was the best thing about it.
It's the Mecca. All right, so let's get back a little bit. You mentioned you transferred a little bit or started to transfer into MMA around your high school years. Talk about kind of the early days of getting into MMA and then, get to how you eventually ended up with Team Alpha Male.
So in high school, I wrestled, and I liked wrestling and I was really good at wrestling, but I wasn't one of those guys that enjoyed wrestling year round, nor was it really something that was really offered in my town, to be honest. So I, just by chance, some guys who had wrestled at the same high school a few years prior to me came into the wrestling room, and they were then fighting. And man, back in those days, they were fighting in wrestling shoes, getting paid like $100 at a casino. Like it was so backyard, and like Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner had just fought, and I was like a fan, I thought it'd be cool, but it wasn't something that I was like, oh, I want to do this. It was just like, oh, that's cool, whatever. But they invited me to go train with them at this little gym that they had a couple miles away from the high school. There was no electricity. It was just basically an empty warehouse with some mats. And so I took it as an opportunity to basically cross train, like still do something hard, but get away from wrestling a little bit. So I started learning how to box with these guys, do jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, and I thought it was awesome. Like for me, it was like, okay, cool. Like not only do I know how to wrestle, but I know how to throw my hands now. I can really defend myself. Like this is awesome. I never once thought about like, oh, I'm going to get into fighting, but I trained for like 3 years. So I started from my sophomore year. And then 2 weeks after I graduated high school, I went to go corner a buddy in Reno, and my buddy, he had like 5 or 6 amateur fights at the time. He was a few years older than me. And as we're getting ready, we had just got done eating and we're getting ready to head back to the venue. He gets a call and I can tell he's talking to someone, and he's like, yeah, he'll do it. Yep, he'll do it. And I'm like, he'll do what? Like, you're talking about me. And he's like, oh, hey, you're fighting tonight. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, I just ate a big ass hamburger and fries. Like, what do you mean I'm fighting tonight? He's like, you're fighting tonight, dude. The promoter called me and saw that you were with me and saw your ears and asked me if you wanted to fight. And I'm like, wow, okay. So I literally fought in the shorts I was wearing up there. I literally had just by chance wore some like wrestling shorts that had no pockets. And we get to the venue. I step on the scale. I'm like 152 pounds. And they're like, oh, this ain't going to work. The guy weighed 135 earlier. But then he stepped on the scale and he was 148 already. So they're like, oh, that's fine. And I'm looking at the guy, and he's like this big, buff, 37-year-old man. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm like about to puke. I'm so full from this hamburger and fries. And like, they're telling me I got to fight in like half an hour. And I'm like, I don't have any. If I told the promoter, I'm like, I don't have anything. He's like, don't worry, I'll hook you up with everything. So he comes in the back. Like, I got my hands wrapped. I don't even know from who. Like, it was the worst wrap job I've ever had. He gave me a mouthpiece. It wasn't even, boiled to my bite. Like, it was all loose. And then a guy who fought, and he took off his jock strap and cup, and they had me put that on. But the thing is, I took the cup out of the jock strap and I put the jock strap on. And when I put the cup in, I put it upside down because I had never put on a cup before. So, bro, I thought the big part went down where your balls were, you know? And so I put this cup on and I'm like, this is the most uncomfortable damn thing I've ever had on my life. And the promoter's like, hey, bud, it's upside down. And the promoter then starts talking to me like, hey, man, just go in there and do your best, okay? Like, he's talking to me like I'm going to get beat up. And it really lit a fire under my ass. I'm like, dude, this fucking guy thinks I'm going to get beat up by this guy. Like, I'm going to fucking beat this guy's ass. So I did. I went out there and beat up this 37-year-old man in about 3 minutes. Like, he kept trying to go for a leg lock on me and just kept, like, leaving his face out there. And I probably punched this guy like 50 times hard as I could right in the fucking face. And by the end of the first round, his eyes were so swollen, like, I don't think he could see anything, and they just ended up calling it. And I remember looking over, and he's got 3 little kids, and his little kids are crying. And I was like, oh, my goodness, like, what a turn of events today. And so, yeah, that's how I ended up getting my first fight, and that's what kind of sparked the, oh, dang, I could be good at this. This would be awesome to start doing.
Jesus. So how old were you at that point?
I was at 18 because I had just graduated like 2 weeks prior. And so at that point, I had made the decision that I was going to go to Sac City Junior College because out of high school, I actually didn't have very many good offers, I would say. So I went to Sac City, and from there, I got really good at wrestling, like even better. And then I had lots of offers and opportunities from there. And NDSU was the only D1 offer I had, so I took it. And then plus I had a friend that wrestled at Sac City that had already gone there and kind of gave me the 411 as far as like, hey man, you're wrestling with the best here. Like you can go somewhere else and you could probably, you know, be a multiple time All-American or whatever. But like here, like you'll get the best you'll get at wrestling. And I'm like, well, I want to get the best I can at wrestling for MMA. So that's the route I decided to go there. And then while I was at Sac City for those 2 years, that's when I linked up with Danny Castillo and Josh Emmett. They would like come in the room every once in a while, and they saw me hitting mitts one day, and they're like, hey, do you fight? And I'm like, yeah, you know, I fight amateur, you know, when it's not wrestling season. They're like, start coming to Team Alpha Male practices. So I think I showed up the next day. I got choked out 5 times in 5 minutes by Favor. And I was an idiot kid. Like I didn't tap right away. So the next day I couldn't even talk. My throat was so sore. And, but I kept showing up to practice every single day, and I would get my butt whooped. But I think all the guys really respected me for that. So after I trained there for 2 years, I made a connection. I'm like, hey, I'm leaving. You know, I'm going to college in North Dakota for the next 3 years. But I'll see you guys when I get back. You know, so that's what I did. I finished off my wrestling career, and then I came home for a summer, and then I got my finances in order, and then September 2nd of 2014 was when I made the jump to training full time at Team Alpha Male.
And is that at that point you decided that's what you were going to do? Like that was the path, you were going to be a pro fighter?
Yeah, I had decided that I was gonna be a pro fighter during my early years of junior college because I was still fighting in the off season of wrestling. And that's ultimately what led me to decide to go to NDSU because I wanted to get as good at wrestling as I could for MMA.
So, all right, let's transition. You're now a pro. You reel off 8 wins in a row across, you know, a bunch of different promotions. Talk about kind of some of your favorite memories from that time, you know, fighting on different promotions and different cards in your early kind of pro career.
Some of the best memories for me was just the advancement and the evolution of how good I got. Like, I feel like I got so good so fast because I was putting in so much more time than everyone. Like, I was in the gym 2 to 3 times a day, Monday through Friday, like consistently. And I was dead broke, but I was training hard. And what I was doing was I was fighting so often, and I could sell so many tickets that I would make like $4,000 to $5,000 for a local fight. And that would last me like 3 or 4 months. So I would fight, and then, you know, my bank account would be getting super low, and then I'd fight again, and then my bank account would be super low, and I'd fight. Man, I did that for years of just basically like hustling, you know, like fighting, selling T-shirts, making like $15 a shirt, you know, but spending all my money to buy the shirts, you know, and then like learning about the stock market. Like I started like investing a teeny tiny bit on like Robinhood and like making small gains like here and there. And I was just freaking grinding. Like I would hit up, I was doing wrestling personals in the gym. So I would do that between sessions. And then every once in a while, those same dads would bring their kids of like, hey, if you have any yard work, like let me know. So sometimes they'd hook me up and they'd be like, hey, come over, you know, this day and this evening, and you can do my whole backyard and I'll pay you $100. And I'd be like, fuck, $100 is a great deal. It would take me like, it would end up being like a 2 or 3 day job. It was always bigger than they explained, you know, but I was pumped. I was like, fuck, I just made $100, you know, in 3 days or whatever. But I was just doing whatever the hell I could to survive. And I love that I had to go through that struggle because now financially I'm in a pretty good place. So that's some of my favorite memories, just starting off, training, getting super good, and just hustling all the time and making it work, you know?
So you're now this, you know, more polished guy at this point, right? Well-rounded. You're 8-0. You're dominating the regional scene, and you decide to go on The Ultimate Fighter. What did you make of that experience, and what do you make of this idea? Do you want them to bring it back? Do you think that that's a good route for fighters to get into the UFC? Just give me your thoughts on The Ultimate Fighter in general and what your experience was like.
My experience there was great. Like, when I first got the like text message on my phone about like, hey, they're doing a season of undefeated guys, I was like, oh, I'm getting on that, like for sure. Like, there's not many guys who are undefeated who have a better record than me and who have fought tougher guys. So I knew I was gonna, if I went and tried out, like I'd get on. And what was funny was a few months prior, I had went out there for when Cody and TJ coached it, and I remember training, and it was such a weird environment because there was no music. Like, it was, Vegas is such a dry place. Like, oh, I hated it. So I remember leaving there and being like, I never want to go in The Ultimate Fighter. And then sure as hell, it's my opportunity. But I'm a guy who, like, when you get an opportunity, you have to take it. So I wasn't gonna just let it pass by. You know, you got to think I was broke as hell. Like, I'm like, damn, this is my opportunity to not be broke. So I was like, fuck, that seemed like a terrible route, but I'll do it. So I did it, got on and I knew I would. And then on the show, I was super confident I was going to win it. Like, I was like 110% dead set. I was gonna beat all these guys' ass, win the show, change my life. But things happen, and sometimes things don't go according to plan or how they're supposed to. And I ended up getting upset by Jay Cuccinello in the semis. You know, I thought I was going to run through him. I was like wanting to make a statement. You know, I wanted to finish the guy, and I had the other coaches in my ear, like, hey, you're the number one pick. You gotta impress people, you know. And I let too much outside things get to me. I didn't fight my fight. I fought very dumb, and I beat myself as much as Jay fought really well too. So I lost, but you know, it was okay because I got another opportunity on the finale against another guy who got upset, Bryce Mitchell, who, you know, in theory it was supposed to be me and him in the finals. And then I ended up losing a close decision there too, and it's like, oh, what the heck, you know? But things happen for a reason. It's led me here, which PFL is a place where I can end up making more money than I probably would have with the UFC, to be honest. So I'm happy with how things have went and how things have turned out. But my experience on the Ultimate Fighter was good. You know, my attitude just the whole time was like, I'm going to win this show, and I became quite the artist there. Like, there's nothing to do but like draw and train, you know. But I like the Ultimate Fighter. I think it's a great opportunity. Like, there's not only so many guys can say they've been on that show. I know they're bringing it back. I don't know what kind of changes they're going to do to like revamp it, because I definitely think they have to change the format. You know, you have to change it to keep it interesting. And I think if they change the format a little bit and draw more viewers in due to that, I think they'll be in a good spot.
So you mentioned it here, but I'd love to talk a little bit about the Bryce Mitchell fight because, as you mentioned, for anyone who watched that season of the show, you two were kind of star-crossed from the start of two guys who were destined to meet. He's obviously undefeated professionally. He remains the only loss on your professional record. Is he a guy that you follow where you're paying attention to him because of that, or is the focus solely on your next opponent, your next guy, your next opportunity, and you'll leave Bryce Mitchell in the rearview mirror and not care about him at all?
Yeah, I'm just focused on what I can do, what I can control. But I like Bryce. Like, me and him were buddies on the show. Like, it's kind of weird fighting him. I'm like, dang, I like this guy. It's like the only time I'm fighting someone that I've kind of liked. But at the end of the day, it's all business. But surely I want him to do good because he beat me. But it's interesting. I would love to know the stat of guys who've gotten cut and then how that guy they lost to did. Like, for example, I mean, he's 5-0 now, and a lot of people could argue that I won that fight. Like, it was really close fight. So it's just interesting that I got cut, and then that he since then he's gone 5-0. Like, it was almost like maybe they thought Bryce was a chump or something. Like, I lost to a chump, and that's why they cut me. I'm not exactly sure, but no, I hope the best for Bryce. And I want to see him continue doing well. And but obviously, I'm focused on my own journey.
So let's talk about that next step in the journey, right? You've got 2 more wins under your belt after that tough finale, and you choose to sign with the PFL, right? What is the opportunity for you here? Why did you choose to sign with them at this stage in your career?
Yeah, so like you said, I rattled off two wins in 2019, which is what I had to do. Like, I had to get back on the UFC's radar, or I had to get on Bellator, one FC, PFL. I had to get all on their radar again. Like, you're not on people's radar if you lose fights, So I knew what I had to do. Me and my management and team kind of set a game plan. Like, hey, let's get 2 local fights against 2 tough opponents, and that's what I did. So then I was kind of back on people's radar again. Like, oh, Tyler Diamond's back. He looks great. So we were kind of talking to the UFC, but their whole thing is like, okay, just have them be ready for a short notice opportunity. And I was down for that. But then PFL, I saw that PFL had gotten rid of a bunch of their fighters, and they were looking for new talent. And as soon as I saw that, I hit my management. I'm like, bro, they pay hella good. Like, I would love to go there. Because at the end of the day, it is all about making money for me, especially. So I don't really necessarily care about the fame. Like, I don't care about getting stopped in grocery stores, like any of that. Like, I just want to make as much money as I can and use that money to invest and help me make further money, And so I reached out and said, hey, let's try and link up with PFL. And literally within a matter of a couple days, it was like, hey, they're interested. They want to sign you. So I got a contract in my email, signed it. Boom. I was with PFL. And then that was in early last year, like February. So I was getting ready to fight in May. And then boom, COVID happens. And it's like, whoa, I'm not fighting this whole year. They just canceled it. So then I was like, damn, did I make the right decision? Like, the UFC for sure would have picked me up, like, for sure. But then I was like, you know what? I did, because now instead of only focusing on training, I can focus on my business that I started, and I can put more attention to that, the attention that I need to put into it. And so I literally just focused on the business that I created. I was doing construction. So again, I kind of like went back to my early days and was just hustling again. Like, it was like, dang, if I'm not going to be fighting, like, I need to do something. So I was just like all about making as much money as I could and putting away as much as I could. Like, I put away a bunch in a Roth IRA. Like, I started investing a bunch. And investing was like the best thing I did, because as you guys know, the market took a huge hit when COVID started. And since then, it's really resurged. So I made some good investments, and I'm happy about that.
All right, so let's talk a little bit. What do you know about your opponent coming up on the 23rd?
I know that he's tall, he's long, he's a kickboxer, and he actually seems like he has decent jits too. But I really feel like I'm better everywhere. I feel like I'm better on the feet. I feel like I'm better on the ground. Like, I don't see him be able to take me down. I think he's tough. One of his fights, it was actually pretty incredible. Like, he was dead to rights getting beat, and he found a way to win in the 4th round. Like, the guy has heart, so he's not just gonna fold like when I hit him in the mouth. It's like I'm really gonna have to try and beat the brakes off this guy to get him to quit. So I know he's tough, and I know he's gonna come to fight, and but I'm sure he knows that I am too. So it's all good.
Tell us a little bit about your fight style and kind of your mindset around fighting, just in general.
Man, my whole mindset is like, it's a fight. I only have 15 minutes. Like, I need to push the pace, and I want to be dead after those 15 minutes, And to a point, though, like, I do have to conserve my energy. Like, early in my career, especially like on the Ultimate Fighter when I lost to Jay, that kind of mindset made me lose because I didn't think I could even get tired. Now I know that I can get super tired, but at the same time, like, I have pretty good cardio, so like it's a balance of controlled aggression, I would say, like I want to be pedal to metal and push the fight the whole time. Because like I said, it is only 15 minutes. So like I got to get after it. And so my whole mindset is just to push the pace as much as I can at all times. And I don't want to be one of those guys that like hangs back and just kind of like I never want to be in a boring fight, So I would say that's just my whole mindset, is just push the pace, be in this guy's face, and just make my opponents uncomfortable.
Is there any guys growing up that you kind of looked at and it's like, that's what a fighter should be?
Yeah, I mean, I would say 2 guys stick to mind. Number 1 was Faber, just because I saw that he was like a smaller guy, and like I knew I was gonna be a smaller guy, so I thought that was really cool. Like, he was a pioneer for us smaller guys. He really paved the path for us. And then a fighter that I feel like I line up the most with, not only with his philosophy and his fight technique, but just everything about the guy. Like, every interview he does, like, I feel like we're pretty much spot on everything, is George St. Pierre. Like, I think he's a super intelligent guy, and he looks at fighting much the same way as me. Maybe with the exception of he's more of a martial artist in the sense that, he like controls the fight a little bit more. I'm more of like push the pace, kind of more aggression style. But other than that, like his whole outlook on fighting is pretty much spot on with my outlook.
What do you take from having legends like, Uriah Faber and Cody Garbrandt and, back in the day, like Chad Mendez, people like that have been at the highest level of the sport in that gym? Because it sounds like you kind of grew up, in this gym the last several years. What is the biggest advantage to, having that on your side?
Dude, well, I just got a bunch of guys who have been there, done that, and when you're in there with those legends, and sometimes you're beating them, like sometimes you're the hammer and not the nail, it makes you realize, like, dang, I am good, like, and I do belong. And because there is days where I don't win many rounds, and there's other days where I don't lose any rounds, and there's a lot of guys that no one knows about in our gym that are just killers, and then there's a lot of guys who everyone knows, like, Cody, Clay Guida, Chad Mendez, Faber, like, and so yeah, it gives you a lot of confidence training with these guys, and you just they're at a high level, and they bring the level of the room up just by their presence being there, so it just gives me a lot of confidence being surrounded with so many great guys.
All right, one more question I ask everyone, and then Billy's got a little rapid fire segment, and then we'll get you out of here. But we talked a lot about fighting. I asked the guys, obviously you just got signed with the PFL, but what are your goals for the rest of the year in 2021, both professionally and personally?
Totally. I think the goal for PFL is obvious. I win these first 2 regular season fights. I get into that tournament. I make my way into the finals, and I win that. Like, there's a lot of money to be made with PFL. Like, I think if I win all those fights, it adds up to like a little over 1.1 mil. So that's the goal fighting. And then the goal business wise is, like I said, I own a business. I have a meal prep company. I just want to keep taking it to new heights. Like, right now we're just kind of local, and we're focused on our backyard. But I'd like to expand and eventually get into shipping and all that. But there's just a lot of logistics I got to figure out there. And there's only so much time in the day, and most of my time right now is dedicated toward training. So finding a balance of being a dad, training, getting all my hours of training in, and running a business can be really difficult sometimes. But those are my goals, fighting and business wise.
One more question I'll add to that. So I saw on your Instagram you recently had a baby. What does that do to your mindset about fighting in general? Because I see it time after time. Like, a guy has a kid and they find a new motivation. You see them almost as a different fighter.
Totally. Yeah. I feel like I get that vibe from some people, and then some people it does the opposite, because having a baby is freaking hard, and sometimes it can make you lose motivation for training because you're invested so much time into this baby and your relationship. And man, it is tiring. It's made fight camp a lot harder, but it's not that hard because I'm married to the right person, so that helps, number one. And number two is it's really helped me manage my time better. Before, I could just fly by the seat of my pants and kind of do this or that, but now like everything's so strategic and in order, and everything is scheduled ahead of time. It's actually helped me quite a bit, to be honest. And yeah, I'm totally more motivated. Like, I have so much more to fight for now, like I've always been a super motivated guy. Like, I want to make money. I want to do the right things with my money. But now, like, I'm trying to build an empire for my son and for him to follow suit. And I don't want to just get everything. I want to make them earn things. And I want to show them that through example. I want to show them, like, hey, this is where we came from, and this is where I am because of hard work. And I want you to do the same thing.
Awesome.
All right. Well, Tyler, thank you so much. This is our rapid fire segment. So I'm going to give you 5 rapid fire questions, not really about MMA at all.
Okay.
It has a different theme every episode. So obviously we were recording this on April Fool's Day. So the theme of this is going to be pranks and jokes.
Got it.
Just rapid fire, whatever comes to your head first. Let me know. Are you ready?
I guess.
All right. Question number 1. Are you usually the one getting pranked or the one doing the pranking?
Doing the pranking.
What is the best prank you have ever pulled on someone?
A time where I changed every single clock in the house, including on their phone, and they woke up thinking they thought they woke up at 2 p.m.
What a dick. Oh, my God.
Who is the biggest prankster at Team Alpha Male?
Ooh, I would say Andre Feely.
Okay, question number 4. What is something you own that if anyone messed with it as a prank, you would be legitimately mad?
My baby boy. I'd be really mad.
Okay, last question here, Tyler. First person that comes to mind. Who is the absolute funniest person you know?
Oh my God, there's so many.
I need a name.
There's so many. I'll say Dulani. Honestly, I know you. That guy is funny, dude.
All right, you heard it here first. Dulani from the Ultimate Fighter.
Perry, the fight god.
Perry. Well, Tyler, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate the time. Wish you best of luck in your first PFL matchup. Tell the people where to find you on social media and any shout outs you have.
For sure. Name's Tyler Diamond. So super easy to find on social media. And then I got to give a shout out to my 2 sponsors I just picked up for PFL. Super pumped. So Sheath Underwear, they're paying me a good amount of money. So I really appreciate them. And I needed a new underwear source anyway, because those American Eagle undies, they don't have enough room down there for what I'm, you know what I mean? So anywho, that's cool. I'm happy I get them on board. And then another company that I'm super pumped about is called Rod Broker. It's a fishing company where basically you can send them a rod and they'll send you a new one. you can either pay a little bit more money or you get money back, according to if you trade it up or down. So I think that's pretty cool too, because one thing that really hinders people from fishing and stuff is like they just don't know. And this guy who owns this company, he's like got a ton of insight, so he'll help people out with that. And he ships nationwide, so that's really cool too.
Awesome. Well, I'm Billy Naden. He's Tyler Diamond. He's Parker Keene. This was episode 69 of Parker's MMA Show. As always, like, share, subscribe, review, give us 5 stars. Tyler, thank you so much for coming on. Can't wait to talk to you next time.
Good luck, brother.
Heck yeah. Thank you guys. I really appreciate you.
All right, man. We'll see you.
Texas Trees is the premier tree care company in the DFW area. Whether you need basic maintenance or specialized services, when it comes to trees, we've got you covered. Pruning, chipping, bracing, and cabling, even root barriers and disease control, we do it all. And if you aren't sure what you need, we have certified arborists on staff to point you in the right direction. Visit us at northtexastrees.net. That's northtexastrees.net. Thanks for listening to Parker's MMA Show. Take a moment to rate and review on Apple Podcast or wherever you get your podcast, and visit parkerkeen'smmashow.podbean.com for additional information on Parker and to stay up to date on the latest drama in the fight world. For more information and important links about today's episode, check out the show notes.